Hi, welcome to the Divorce Allies podcast, a podcast and video series where we dive into all things divorced, focused on the process of creating a settlement offer and working with a bunch of professionals. Today we have Cristin Terri and Anna Graham here, and I'm Melissa Gragg. I'm actually the financial mediator and business evaluator. Cristin is our parenting plan specialist, and Anna will help you create any business and get to cash flowing as soon as possible. But today we're going to talk about a topic that we're talking about in our live session, but it really has to do with in the mediation process, you're going to typically work with maybe a mediator that's a former judge or attorney, right? And in some capacity, they're just facilitating the discussion. So when you come in, if you don't have a parenting plan, they're going to sit back and be like, hey, like let's say Cristin and Anna are coming in as a couple. They're going to be like, so what do you guys think about the parenting plan? And you're going to sit there for 2 hours hashing through a parenting plan, as opposed to what we recommend is if you're one of the spouses that knows the kids the best, why aren't you creating the rubric of this plan and at least putting some of the pieces together? And I think Cristin has a great idea of like, what are those big pieces? And like, why are we spending all this time with a mediator just like watching us talk about holidays, right?
Yeah.
Like, can you do this outside of mediation? Can you prepare it to go into mediation? Can you do it alone without your spouse and just have like the template started? And that's where we kind of pull Cristin in and say, you know what? The mediator is not going to help. Like when they come in and they're like, oh, we have parenting plan issues. Okay, well, have you downloaded a template? No. Okay, well, what are some of the issues? Well, we're concerned with transitions or we're concerned with holidays. So we usually start there. And then it's like they then understand how important it is. And then they want to kind of come back to the beginning and start the process. And they'll be like, well, Melissa, you're the mediator. Can't you just help us through? Yeah. If you want to sit here for hours and then we only have an outline of what it looks like. We don't have a plan per se. You have like bullet points of what you agree and don't agree. And that's not a plan. Cristin can tell us more about like what actually is in a parenting plan.
Yeah. And Cristin, before you get started, I just want to jump in really quick. My perspective is there is a huge disconnect between the legal team, the mediators, whoever, and the clients, because I think the clients think, okay, I'm walking into this, the parenting plan will be pretty much, it's going to be generic enough. We can just settle on some things. My attorney, my mediator has a feeling of what's going on. So it'll be pretty good. And then on the opposite side, the mediator, the legal team's expecting the clients to come with a very well thought out plan. And so then it's this weird in the middle of like, wait, what? Like there's just a miscommunication through the whole process. And so that's why Cristin is so necessary, because she's bringing light to all of these, not even just like the holiday things. It's even the very niche specific things like drop off and pick up. So things that no one even considers. So I just wanted to bring that in because as kind of like the outside perspective here, that's what I'm seeing is it's just a big gap in the system.
100%. And people also it can be overcomplicated or not overlooked completely. What often some of my clients, they're like, well, we're not in a high conflict situation. We're already on the same page. A parenting plan is not necessarily for when you're on the same page, because then you can kind of put it away and not look at it. A parenting plan is for when, excuse my language, when shit hits the fan, when you don't get along, when you don't agree, when there is a new partner introduced and someone's feelings are hurt. A parenting plan is not just for the high conflict. So some people are happy with your attorney or your mediator giving you the bog standard parenting plan template, because they don't mind if you have to come back to them in a year, 2 years, or every year to change your parenting plan. And if you don't have a parenting plan that is detailed in every decision, it's a business plan, it's a business agreement. You're not going to start a business with someone and not have an agreement with them, right? So it can be overcomplicated where people think, oh my gosh, I need a legal expert. No, it's an agreement between two people that you can have a legal expert review and know that you're covering all the bases from baby all the way through to college. I've helped clients now develop parenting plans that start with a 4-year-old, but it opens up space to evolve, that these two parents don't have to come back every 2 to 3 years as the situation changes. The parenting plan is there to protect conflict around the kids. It's that there's clarity, it's not too vague, it protects the kids from manipulation, it saves you from high conflict and arguments. It's got alternate dispute resolutions. When you argue, how are you going to resolve this issue without incurring legal fees at every step going forward? And unfortunately, with attorneys and lawyers and mediators, they are going to charge you by the hour. So if you're word vomiting all the emotional stuff for 5 hours as to why the other parent is not a good parent, you're going to be billed by the hour. A parenting specialist like myself, we charge a flat fee for a parenting plan. You get to revise it twice. I'm putting a plan in place that hopefully can help grow with your kids and makes provision for changing circumstances when there's a new partner introduced. I've seen so many parenting plans where it doesn't discuss when can new partners be introduced, how long do they need to be in a relationship before children are introduced to new partners. And that's a very sore topic for most people getting divorced. Allowing someone, firstly, letting go of your kids to have 50-50 custody, and secondly, having another woman or another man around your kids. So there's so many little tiny things in these bog standard parenting plans that legal experts use that is just opening you up to a long journey of legal expenses and conflict.
Well, and if we understand what goes down when this happens, so either you're in litigation and they're like, hey, have you guys agreed on some sort of parenting plan? For the most part, the lawyer is going to download and give you a template that's from the state that you're getting divorced in. These are the most archaic templates ever, but they want you to fill out those boxes and make sure that they have the bare minimum that they have to produce. So let's say you go into mediation, or you even are in litigation and doing mediation, whatever it matters, right? You're going to now sit down and they're going to say, okay, let's walk through, like, how old are your kids? Okay, who wants, like, what's the, like, they're going to start at the very beginning and they're going to just write this outline of an agreement, right? And now you're going to have to pay them to put that back into writing and back into an agreement. And you have to understand that your spouse, the toxic spouse, or the spouse that may be a little bit narcissistic, has no desire to have a full, complete, detailed parenting plan. So if you don't come prepared and with a parenting plan that's not the template, that literally addresses all the issues, that protects you, a parenting plan is there to protect you from having these awkward conversations in the future and arguing about things that you could all agree about. There's also this issue that you're in the divorce. So the pressure of the timing means that if you don't agree to this entire plan, then we're not done. That forces them to come to the table and talk through all of these issues. The thing is, do you really have to do it with everybody there? And if you come with a full plan that's a written plan, are you now basically everybody can kind of edit it, right? The attorney doesn't have to go back and recreate it. The mediator doesn't have to go create it. They're coming with this basic plan. And the reason why you would work with somebody like Cristin or a parenting plan specialist is to understand the nuances that you're not thinking about. Who's going to buy their iPhones? Who's going to pay for private school? Who's going to pay for extracurriculars? What about college? What if they come home after college? What if they get in an accident? What if the car? Who's going to buy the, like, they're there to make sure that you create a complete process and save time, because you're probably the main provider. And so you like, do you need everyone in the room to talk about these things, or are you creating something that is your position, your perspective, that is beneficial to you, that incorporates all of the things that are most important to you, because the other person is not going to care, right? Let them just critique it, but it's never going to be more complete unless you create it. The attorney and everybody is just going to write down these things. They're going to go charge you to put it together. They're going to send it back to you. And now the other attorney has to look at it, or both attorneys have to look at it because the mediator got paid to create it. And now you're paying 3 people to do this process, and they still don't care about your child or your situation. So that's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality of working with Cristin, or, like, I'm a financial mediator. Do people want to work with me and get all of it done? Yes. So it means, as a mediator, I have to say, it would be best and more efficient if you worked with a specialist who's going to walk you through. And because if I miss some of the stuff, it's on me, right? Whereas if you miss some of the stuff, then those things maybe weren't important. And it's okay, because I don't need to go in and pressure test that. You worked with an expert. The expert told you all the ways till Sunday that you should consider. And you said, not all of those are important. The only things that need to be in the parenting plan are to protect you and that are important to you. Then your spouse could add things to that as well during the mediation if you can't communicate with your spouse, right? If they're just positioning like, oh, I care about the kids, but they really don't, that allows you to set forth the first plan, and that should be the most complete. Let them pull off things if they don't like it, but you have to go in order of your issues. These are my top 3 to 5 issues. Here's a plan around it. And somebody like Cristin is going to have a lot of templates, right? I might have one. I might have something that I saw somebody create, but I don't have a million of them. So really knowing that the people that are around you are going to tell you that they are needed, but really a specialist is going to be a better fit.
What are some of the most common issues both of you see in both of your worlds if someone doesn't have someone like Cristin helping them, if they are just leaving it up to the attorney or the mediator to create it?
On my side, I generally see very vague parenting plans that leaves clients and children with a lot of confusion. It leaves them open and vulnerable to manipulation and loopholes and just endless legal battles, because you haven't laid down, what is this agreement? What are we agreeing on? So it's just prolonged process and opening themselves up to that manipulation, that confusion, arguments, and then that filters into the kids. So it benefits everyone to have a laid out plan, and that evolves with the children.
Mediators can come up with like creative plans, like I was talking with a couple and they're moving houses, right? So I was like, well, have it be a surprise, room reveal, right? Have it be a big thing that, like, instead of going to this house and you're now going to spend the night one place and the other place, like, have it be like, oh my gosh, look at this bedroom. Like, you have your favorite chair. You have, like, make it be a situation where they want to. I come up with great creative ideas during the mediation, but what we're talking about in a parenting plan is it a written document that you're going to abide by, and you're not going to have these discussions, and in the situation where a person is coming into play, a new significant others, have that discussion before it comes into play, right? And you guys can all have the feelings and be like, well, I don't want that, or I don't want that. But it really is that this should be a well thought out written document that cover, like, not a 1 page. Like, it could be like 20 or 30 pages. Like, it doesn't have to be, it really, needs to cover everything. And a mediator doesn't necessarily spend all that time to come up with that. They're really like, oh, okay, you like Easter and you like, the summer, or you want to go on a vacation. They're going to just bring up big topics, but they're going to then say, okay, well, you guys go put it in writing, or you go to your attorney and have them put, here are the things that we agreed to, have them put it in writing. You're still working with somebody to create a document that you're not a part of. Whereas when you're working with a specialist, they're like showing you the document. You're editing it while you're speaking. You're talking about all of this. And it takes you to kind of look at it several times. Again, if that's an important issue. If it's not, and you guys have gotten along in the past, that's where I see people do nothing. And the problem is everybody's getting along right now. You cannot predict the future. And so I think it's just a preventative. It's like a prenup. It's like any of these preventative measures. It is to protect you in the future so that you don't have to have awkward conversations or fighting about things that could have been settled when there was the pressure to settle it, right? You have an opportunity to settle it during this process. If you go beyond that process, your ex, who could be toxic, might use it to their advantage. Like, well, you never said we had to do that. We never discussed that. And they're going to have amnesia. And so if it's like written, like, and I'm a step parent, like, there were a lot of times when we did not agree. And if it wasn't written in the agreement, then she may have prevailed, right? And it's because like we didn't have any control over it. So it would just be how it is. So you're giving up some of that control, and you just don't know what you don't know. You're too involved with the divorce that you're not thinking about all of these things. And that's what the parenting plan provider kind of really says, oh, no, don't worry about that. Worry about this. This is what you need to, based on your situation, right? It's not just like, here's a template. It's like, oh, you got teenage kids. Well, let's talk more about what that looks like, as opposed to you have child age, like preschool age kids. Those are two different parenting plans and two different discussions, right? What's going to happen if the kid doesn't want to come stay at dad's? I would have that discussion.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's going to happen because kids are just going to get lazy and they're like, I don't want to pack up and go. Can I just sleep here all the time and just go see him? And that's going to reflect on you that you are preventing them. So have it discussed already in advance. Of course, no one thinks about that, but a coordinator would think about that.
You took the words out of my mouth there with two things. Is, do you really want an attorney to use a template with your kid's future? Like, do you really want that? Do you think they know your family well enough to make all of these small decisions on how you are going to feel in 3 months' time when your ex-spouse brings someone else home? They're not thinking about that. So yeah, taking control and using a specialist, you have so much more control of all the details that you're putting into the parenting plan. And then I just forgot the other point. So Anna, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, hearing you two going back and forth, it brings so much clarity to the situation. Like, Cristin, what you said, who wants a template for really anything? Unless it's like simple income and expenses, Melissa, right? But even with that, there's going to be some challenges. You have to figure out, I think it's really hard in this high conflict divorce or any divorce to think about even like tomorrow. And now you're going to have to think about 5-10 years with your kids. That's really difficult. But someone like Cristin is coming at it from a neutral position. She's saying, okay, these are some challenges that you're like the iPhone. Duh, who's going to buy all this technology? Who's going to buy the school laptop? Who's going to pay for summer camps? Who's going to pay for sports? All of those things. We get it. You can't think of that right now. So let someone like Cristin help you work through it, help you introduce some of these things that will happen. And it'll just make the whole process easier. It's someone who's holding your hand through this, helping you make those very informed decisions and, along with everything else happening in the divorce. So I think even this short conversation brings a lot of light to the difference between having a templated process and having a specialist like Cristin.
You don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And exactly what you're saying, Anna. I couldn't have forethought any of the things that I eventually have added into my parenting plan, because there's so much going on at that time. So it's hard to project 15 years down the line. How are you guys going to handle girlfriends or boyfriends or dating with your teenage boys, or are there curfews, or because at the moment you're looking at a 3-year-old. So, yeah, you don't know what you don't know. So this is not an area to be guessing.
Well,
in my opinion.
We're empowering people to get divorced. Like, this is the part of an empowered divorce that you have to be aware of. If it is important to you, if the kids are a central issue and you want clarity because you've had a toxic spouse, everybody around you might say, oh, you don't need that help. Oh, you don't need that help. It is a low cost compared to attorneys and other people. And it is a fixed fee, and you know what you're going to get into it, and you know it's going to be very specific for you. But it does take time. It takes several sessions. It's not a one and done. But again, most of the people around you are not going to champion it. And so you have to really trust your instincts that this is important. And for the most part, what we're saying is, like, we've seen it gone wrong. We've seen it that mostly that they didn't put a lot of effort into it, and it ends in years and years of heartbreak and heartache because you're having these conversations, trying to do it in private, but your kids are aware of it, And so the more you can just co-parent and not really worry about some of these things because they're set in stone, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to hire somebody outside of that process and just be like, fine, I'll go work with somebody and I'll bring it back, and then we'll discuss it. Because again, they don't want you to do that because they want to charge you for it. So you got to read the room and see that that's one of the reasons why they're doing that. And if it's important to you, trust your instincts. This is an empowered divorce, and you have to empower yourself to find the right advocate for you and present it. No one else is, you can't sit back on this one and think that your husband is going to create a great plan, right? Okay. I mean, I have a stay-at-home husband, and it would still be hard for him to figure out what would be needed. So take it, take it as important, and don't let them dissuade you from doing that piece of the puzzle. So I know we've talked a lot about this. It just meant to be kind of a short kind of primer on what to expect and how to work with somebody. And this again is the Divorce Allies podcast. And if you have more questions or you want to join the Divorce Allies, reach out to us. Thank you, Cristin and Anna. I think this was a good conversation, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Melissa. Bye, Cristin.
Thanks, Melissa. Bye.